Welcome to CP Time. I'm Chris.
I'm Paul.
And today we have an amazing special guest. He is now the executive director of the Pittsburgh Civic Light Opera, and his name is Mark Fleischer.
Yeah, that's what it says on the screen. How are you?
We are great. We took a lot of effort to put our faces on and clean up for this very special day.
Yes. No pants. It's okay. I understand.
And slippers.
I see them.
So, you made a really funny comment when we asked you to be on this show, which I thought we should start the meeting off with. You said, "Have you run out of things to talk about with each other?" Which is exactly true. Also, during quarantine, we also are driving each other bonkers. Like last night, for fun, you want to tell them what we did?
No, you can tell.
We played laser tag in our house.
All the lights out and.
Actually, we didn't turn the lights out. That would have been great. You have these little things that you wear, like you wear them around your neck, and then you have the guns, and they're all battery operated, and you run around the house and you aim at the target.
It was a great workout.
It was a workout.
Those stairs in your house.
And also, we were laughing, so we were hiding and trying to laugh at the same time, which doesn't work. So that's what it's come to. So we wanted to branch out with CP Time and have people, especially people in the arts, talk about how they've been managing, how they're reinventing themselves, what they're doing to keep. So we thought we would turn it over to you and see what you'd like to share, maybe about the CLO or anything, how they're reinventing themselves with this insane world in 2020, 2021.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think as Pittsburgh CLO, as the Western Pennsylvania's, if not the state's largest musical theater producer and educator, we got hit, March 15th, like everybody else, told to shut down. I was, Van Kaplan, our CEO, and I were in New York doing auditions the week before for the summer season. Came back, we had said, Mike Marasca, who was our then CFO, we said, we should probably do an at-home test to see if our computers all work from home. And so we had already planned that on Tuesday, we would all go and do a work from home day, just to see if it worked. But we never got there. We had to do it on Monday. So, we were thinking ahead as this reality came in. But, I would say, what we do is musicals, what we do is live performance, what we do is put things in front of people to experience collectively in a sense of community. Or some people say we have the lights turned on you for 2.5 hours. But we had to really think about what we could do. And we took a lot of, I think the first thing we decided we needed to do was take care of our students. We, as you know, Chris, we have a CLO Academy of Musical Theater and a number of other programs. And how do we make sure those...
Sorry to interrupt, but you guys were one of the first that...
Yeah, we were online in 4 days.
That's amazing. How did you do it?
One of the things that's been amazing, I've been at CLO now 6 years and some number of months. And Mike Tricaro, who's our education programs manager, made a comment once to us in a staff retreat that CLO gets it done no matter what it is. And the other thing I laugh is that we've sort of taken the summer stock model to heart in everything we do.
Okay, for those people listening and watching, I know what you mean.
Yep.
Maybe you should elaborate a little on that, because it actually makes me laugh, because it's sort of how I approach life, which drives my husband crazy.
So CLO produces a summer season. That's what we're most known for. We started 75 years ago in 1946 at Pitt Stadium under the stars, and the idea was to do stock theater. And stock theater is fast and up and uses sometimes actors who know the roles and shows that exist. So we're not creating new shows. So our summer season, which is traditionally 6 full-scale musicals at the Benedum Center on a Broadway scale with full union crew, orchestra of 20. I mean, Chris has been in them. Paul, you've played them. We do it in 8 days, 5 hours. And those are theater people. We do, you're having your run through on day 5. And then you're in tech on day 6 and 7. And then you have another run through on 8, and you open that night. so, the other joke is that every summer at Pittsburgh CLO, every day is a week and every week's a month.
Yeah.
It moves fast, but we've sort of, in some ways, good or bad, taken that to almost everything we do, where it's like, let's start the whatever, let's do a festival, let's do new work. And we tend to work fast. So we immediately moved into, as you would imagine, daily Zoom meetings like everybody. And one of the first things we wanted to do was take care of the students. We knew what sort of a disruption this would be, not seeing their friends. I mean, we have kids that come to the academy. This was sort of shocking when we went to look to reopen, but 40 different school districts across 3 states converge on the academy. So it's a second home. If you've been in the halls of the academy, the energy, the parents that hang out, it's really tremendous. And these kids lean on each other in a way, they found their tribe, as it were, right? So some of them don't go to art schools like Kappa or whatever. They go to regular curricular schools, non-magnet, and they may be the outsider. So they found their home. So it was very important. So Keisha Lalama and the team over there found a way through Zoom and working with the faculty. In 4 days, they were up and running. And we saw
that's even faster. That's even faster than the school districts did it.
We waited. What
2
was
weeks?
it? 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3.
It was 3 weeks before we were up and running.
Yeah, I mean, so we found that. We found it was also the thing that was interesting with schools where it gave a great geography doesn't matter. So we managed to get on the phone or call or email CLO alums to give classes. So I found amazing, I mean, some of our students had a master class with Rob Marshall.
That is,
balls. The director of Mary Poppins Returns, Chicago, Into the Woods, right? I mean, but may not know, got his equity card and start in the ensemble at Pittsburgh CLO. He's a dedicated CLO person. Beth Level, who had been in one of our New Works projects and had been in Into the Woods, and she came and taught a master class. Patrick Page, who is Hades in Hadestown, among many other things from Green Goblin, taught a master class. We also managed to get the New Horizons program up and running. New Horizons is CLO's classes we've had for many years for adults and students with physical and mental disabilities, teaching them musical theater, just as an outlet, not as rehabilitation. It's purely just the joy and the excitement of musical theater. So those were the ones that were amazing to me, to see that Zoom come up.
I think more than anything.
And again, providing a sense of routine and connection. And yes, we know that living rooms across Pittsburgh suddenly became tap studios and vocal. And I've taught a couple classes for some of the kids on Zoom, and they've really adjusted. But that was sort of our first focus: how to take care of those students that mattered. The second thing was then, all right, well, now let's talk about our audiences and artists. So I created a talk show that I know you've been on, Chris. Olivia O'Connor, our manager of new work, and I created a show called Close Ups, based CLO, Close Ups. It's also the name of our newsletter, so we were just doing that. And then our marketing department, Sid and Becca and staff, jumped on and figured out how to stream a talk show. And again, I think we started April 15th, maybe, so a month in. So that was, and we've had almost 30 episodes. Like it's, and again, we did a mix of people like Patrick Page or Clay Aiken, and then also local performers. And then we did other things that were unique to it. So we felt that we couldn't produce musicals on Zoom. We just knew that the technology is not there for singers, and I didn't want to have people lip sync. So we decided we'd just go backstage, and we've had people be able to hear from actors of what they're doing. What in the early days it was like, what's happening in New York, what's happening in LA, and that was sort of the main things that we changed. Then there's been small programs from Google Doc the Musical, which you worked on, putting Christmas Carol on the.
I was going to talk about that because that was pretty huge.
Yeah. I mean, but I've said this to a few people that I signed up to be a producer, not a canceller. And the month of April was one of the hardest when we finally decided to cancel the summer season. We had it mostly cast. We were ready. We knew it was. I called every actor that was involved and said, we're not doing this. And I knew that for many of them, it was probably the 5th call they had gotten or were going to get. I made the comment that, a lot of students get their equity card at their first professional job at CLO. There were kids who cried when I offered them the job. I was so nervous of what it was going to be when I called to cancel them the job, right?
I still cry when I'm offered a job, please.
I know you wear your heart on your sleeve, Chris. So, that was sort of the hardest thing that we did. And that was summer season, and then Untitled, which was going to be a world premiere. And then when it quickly became aware that this was not going to be a 2-month thing, we're in what, month 10? Um, you know, uh, we had to figure out what else we were going to do. And the hardest one for me, and many at CLO, not just me, was looking at the cancellation of Christmas Carol, which had been done for 28 years. 7,000 school children see that show every year. Many Pittsburghers can trace their first show ever to seeing Christmas Carol. I was on an interview with a potential board member yesterday, and she identified that that was her first show. She was one of the kids that came, and now she's, in her 30s. And so there's a great, and if you know the show, if you've seen Christmas Carol at the Byam, there's a great company of actors that have been through it. Chris, you've been in the show. Many people I know got their start. Renee Elise Goldsberry from Hamilton started in that show, right? Plus this community from, Jeff Howe and Tim Hartman and Terry Wickline. So the idea of not having that at this era of the holidays. So out of nowhere, we kind of made a cold call to QED, Deb Acklin and Daryl Ford, and they were like, Van and I were on this Zoom call, and we kept selling it. And they're like, stop, we're gonna stop selling. I'm like, oh. So basically we became television producers. So I spent a lot of time with Wrecking Crew Media and the director and writer of the show to figure out how to get it into an hour and 45 minutes with no intermission. We happened to have this great B-roll archival we took with Richard Thomas with HD footage and 2 cameras that we had at our disposal. And now it's great. We went out on the air in December. It broadcast 3 or 4 times on the air, plus online. There were some arranged student viewings with actors doing talkbacks on Zoom. Again, I think what's been fascinating is to watch the reinvention or the necessity. Look, we want to get back to live performance. And the minute you tell us we can, we'll be back. We can put a show up. We put a show up in a week. So give us 2 weeks and we'll be in a theater when it's time. But for now, I have to say, taking care of the students, taking care of the artists as much as we could. We started some crazy little programs. Chris, you were involved, called Theatergrams, which was you can have an actor do a video singing. Paul was actually in it too. He's your backup. You can have
he's my partner.
No, I'm definitely backup.
For your Valentines, you can have Chris Laitta sing a song, or a number of artists if you go to our website. But that was sort of like, what else can we do to create work and create art? We had some other plans that then when the second shutdown came, caused us not to be able to do it. But again, our number one goal, of course, is the ongoing survival and resilience of the CLO so that it's here in the future. I mean, sort of the challenge, and I wouldn't say tragedy, but this is our 75th year.
Yeah.
And the idea of not having it. So there's a commitment. As I've said to many of my staff, we have our fingers crossed, but our sleeves rolled up. We know there's work to be done. I create, in the early days, it's the same as now. We create a lot of alternative plans and scenarios, and then we throw them out when new news comes. And we're in conversation with our colleagues across the country. But I've been working at home now since that March, 15th, 16th.
How do you stay so positive? Because one thing I notice about you is that you're still able to be like, we're going to do it. We're going to reinvent. How do you keep pulling yourself up from the bootstraps? Because I know that's something I do. I try to stay super positive and find projects, but how do you do it? How do you stay positive?
We all have our moments. I recognize we have a bigger calling. Look, I got into theater, obviously, to pretend to be somebody else. I started like an actor, all those kinds of things back in high school. But it's because I've moved from performer to director to producer. It's been about a bigger picture of seeing the whole community's impact and use of the organization. And knowing that 200,000 people come through our doors every year, that we have a responsibility. And I will also say, seeing the CLO staff reinvent and put on new hats and has been amazing. We're probably in some ways better communication and simpatico now than we've ever been. There are silver linings coming out of this, I think, as we reinvestigate who we are and who we want to be and what is our cause. Watching the community that came together to help raise money to keep our doors open.
Yeah.
To watch 90% of the people who had a subscription for 2020 either donate it back or move it to 2021.
That's amazing.
It is.
And I think that says belief in us, trust in us, and again, if someone want a refund because people have had hard times, we were there and, we'll give it to you. But 90% stuck with us, and some of them donated and then bought the next year immediately. So I mean, a good thing is about Pittsburgh. You've been here, much longer than me, Chris. That the sort of part of the fabric that the organization is, and that we do things that even if people don't like, from the Kelly Awards to the Jimmy Awards, or locally Kelly Awards, the school, the Gallery of Heroes. There's so many things we do beyond those 6 shows, but we're mostly known for those.
Yeah,
and we're proud of that. I mean, the shows that we do, I'm very proud of that we put on at the Benedum and the seasons. But there's also this community effort, and I think that's been sort of what drives us. For me individually, I laughed. I've never worked so hard not doing shows. I thought we'd have all this time, but we're a smaller, mightier staff. We're trying to keep things going. I read. I have my shows, I binge, I cook a lot, I find time for me and life. In some ways, it was the first summer I've had, and probably the first summer in 10 years I didn't do summer theater.
Yeah.
Strange.
Okay. So you talked about shows you binge. This is obviously a very important question.
Okay.
For me, the TV freak, did you binge Tiger King?
No, I did not. I'm not a reality show person.
I'm really proud of you.
I'm only a reality show person. Certain skill sets, like I was a big Top Chef person because, again, A, food, and B, skills, or Project Runway, skills.
Yeah. Have you watched The Repair Shop yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh, yeah, you can love it. What was your favorite binge, TV or movie binge that you had?
Well, I was late to the party on Schitt's Creek. I have to admit that. And we finally watched it and loved it and fell in love with most of the characters by the ending, because I started it a long time ago. I was like, I don't like any of these people. I am never going to like these people. And a friends were like, just wait. I'm like, okay. And yeah, I would say, 90% of them I fell in love with. A couple I still can't stand. And now, I'm obsessed with Dan Levy and what he does, and the idea of him and his father. And so that was the comedy. It also was great because that was good because it just needed 22 minutes of, or whatever it is now. I'm using old terminology, right? I just needed 22 minutes of light and happy. But I will tell you the moment that turned for me, and it must be that I identify with Eugene Levy's character. It's the dinner at the restaurant where he stands up to his old friend who wasn't there for him. And I said,
yes!
And that was the moment. I was like, I actually turned to Holly. I was like, I'm in. Like, now I'm in. Like, that was the moment. I've lived in small towns like that. I lived in Glens Falls before this, and I lived in Sherman, Texas when I went to college. And I actually Sherman's this little small town, and students used to love slamming Sherman. It was just, I'll never forget the day that Peter Lucchese, my English professor, stood up and said, "Hey, I live here."
Oh, wow. In front of the class.
I raised my kids here. Like, this is my town. I've made it. And it was like, oh, you're right. We're 4 years transient.
Yeah.
It's the other thing, sometimes people forget, even in our field, right? Like, what I love about towns that are able to support our artistic culture is that someone who saw you on stage or saw you in a jazz club runs into you in a grocery store. And suddenly you're like, oh, wait, there are people that live here. And it's one of the things that, we sometimes just see these extras, this frivolous, but I do care if the schools are good. I do care if there's a tax base. I do care about local because I own a house in this town.
Yeah.
Right. And I think sometimes that's forgotten, that we're not this we're this extra. No, we're citizens. And even the stories I choose to tell, or we choose to tell the CLO, come out of being here. And it's taking, again, getting to know I grew up in Texas. My first theater was in Texas, in my hometown. So I knew that town well. And that's always been a part of me. So part of what's been important to me is when I moved to Glens Falls was how to get involved and know the town, because we're part of it. And Pittsburgh, which is harder now being isolated, but that was my biggest thing. It's like, oh, I'm gonna have to learn a new city, and this is one of the bigger cities I've been in the last. I mean, I was in Chicago for a number of years, but yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it. So that moment, I think, really spoke to me in the show. But I really needed that show. I look, I'm also a news junkie, and I would have to stop and turn that off, and then watch my 22 minutes of that. Or what's the other one? Kim's Convenience is another one I really love on Netflix, out of Canada. Um, and if you haven't watched that and you've seen Mandalorian, you know the father from Kim's Convenience because he shows up in the last couple episodes as that X-wing fighter. But which is why I was like, crossover. We did finally watch the Mandalorian.
Yeah. Did you scream at the end? Because we stood up for the last 10 minutes and screamed.
Yeah,
I got teary-eyed.
Did you? Yeah, I know. I really love it. And now seeing what they're doing with the others, Holly was more excited, my fiance, in terms of when Boba Fett showed up. Like when they saw that's when she went ballistic. I love Star Wars. I grew up. I saw the original in the theater. I'm of that generation. But it's taken me a while to get back into the second wave of it, as it were. But anything Jon Favreau, anything he does. I don't know if you've watched the interview, the documentary parts of it. There's a documentary with all the directors.
Oh, yeah.
Is it on?
It's on Disney Plus.
Oh wow! No, we haven't.
It's a whole series of the makings of, and they like interview all the different directors and the team. And it's almost like you put a team of directors, like actors, together.
Well,
and then the other things are food shows.
Not The Crown. The Crown.
I'm not the Anglophile. My mother's the Anglophile. That's her thing.
And stop recording.
I love London, but I'm not obsessed with the royals.
I gotta tell you, it was a hard sell on this guy because when I first started watching it, I said, "You're gonna love the show."
The first couple of seasons, the Claire Foy section, it's a little historical, you know? And it's like I could take it or leave it. Seriously,
you liar.
When they got into the Olivia Colman era.
Mm-hmm.
No. You loved
no.
the last.
I'm being honest.
Okay,
I'm being honest with you. When they got into the Olivia Colman era, it was like must see. Like, this is unbelievable. The Princess Di, Charles, that whole thing was like, this is amazing.
And we have friends that live in Wales and in the UK, and
they had no interest when it was the Claire Foy stuff. When they got into the Charles and Diana stuff, they were all over it.
Yeah. So we talk British history with them and the accuracy of the show. You gotta give it a shot. The acting is.
I mean, like, it's part of a challenge. Like, we live in this strange golden age of television, and there's like, how many hours can you? I will say the other one that I binged again for 22 minutes, that I was never a part of, and Holly had said you were gonna like this, was The Good Place.
Oh,
that's her show.
I'm telling you, tell him, Mark. It is great.
It is actually smart. It is really thoughtful. I was very moved by the end, heartfelt.
I know. I didn't want it to end. I really didn't.
Yeah. And so I binged that for her, and now the sort of guilty pleasure of binging Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. right now. I've never been a big Marvel person. Holly loves that show, and I said okay. And now she's like, although I think there's certain shows that they've written to be binged and others that haven't.
Yeah.
So like, I think I binged The Sopranos years ago because I'd never seen it, and I don't think it was built to be binged.
No, because
or Breaking Bad's that way too, right? You need the week to process.
Yeah.
Mad Men was sort of the move in.
Yeah.
But
have you done a Netflix party since quarantine began?
Other than Holly and myself on the couch, that's it.
So that's another fun thing to do. My friend was in quarantine and locked in her room, and so that's a really clever way Netflix really tried to connect people. So if you have friends or family that you haven't seen, I would highly recommend it.
It's funny. So my mom and I I also really like British crime and procedurals. Like, that's my other thing I really love. And so, like, I'll get a text from her, like, I watched this, and then I'm like, okay, and then we'll watch those. Food shows are really the big one for me. Like, the Chef Show with Jon Favreau, who I've mentioned earlier, is one of my favorites, and Somebody Feed Phil is the other one, which I say.
Oh, we love that.
We love that.
A literal antithesis of Bourdain, who I also really like. That's what I kind of said, like they're the opposites of each other. Although now I'm really excited. It's kind of a joke in our house right now. If you've watched CNN, which probably you do, the Stanley Tucci thing that's about to happen in Italy, it's got me. I was like, although Ollie's joke with me was, remember when I used to dress like that? Like I used to dress like. She's like, you still could. So today I like put on a button down and belt. And, but yeah, I'm like, yeah, I remember I used to wear a pocket square everywhere I went. But I'm very excited about that. But if it's got food and like travel, and like meeting those people, like I said, like the chef show and Somebody Feed Phil and all, and like I'll text my mom like, there's new episodes. I'm like, oh, they're done.
There's a show I think you would love if you haven't seen it on Netflix called 7 Days Out.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen this?
I don't know that one.
It's a reality show, and it's the 7 days leading up to whatever this huge event is.
Okay.
So there's an episode that's about the Westminster Dog Show.
Oh, so
it's 7 days leading up to it. There's a show about
a three
Michelin star restaurant called
it's in New
Madison
York.
on the Park.
Madison,
the 7 days of them reopening. There's a show about them launching a space. It's really fascinating. Yeah. It's really good.
It's funny, the food shows, strangely, whether it's Gordon Ramsay or usually like the Restaurant Impossibles or Kitchen Nightmares, I find them interesting for me as a producer. Like I find the sort of how those chefs or owners run their company, the management. I mean, I kind of also in this era became a little bit of a management junkie in terms of the books I'm reading about, Real Leaders Eat Last, or Scarcity, or The Forever Promise. Like I became a little bit of that, and then I'm like, oh, to read some novels to get outside of that. But no, there's just so much TV and so much to go back and watch.
Yeah.
I made Holly go back and watch some old TV shows like Taxi that she had never seen. That's on Hulu.
We started that.
Yeah.
And if you forget how many people were in it, and like there's an episode where Martin Mull shows up as sort of a director. You're like, oh wait, and you look how young Danny DeVito and Judd Hirsch and how many careers were launched out of that. So I've done some of that, but I would say though I spend so much my day on the screen, really sometimes coming downstairs, it's like the last thing I want to do. So there's been a lot of Scrabble. And what else we do?
You play Bananagrams?
I think we haven't played with Boggle. I like word games a lot. So Scrabble, I think it's called Word Up, which is Scrabble, but you can build the word higher.
Yeah.
And Boggle. And then whether it's me being a hipster or not, we started Catan, which I know we introduced you to one night. Settlers of Catan. But board games have been a part of that. I mean, there you go, Boggle, that noise. Our cat
it's a mini travel Boggle.
That's what we have.
And then this, one of the greatest games ever made.
I think that, again, for me, I mean, you were joking at the beginning of the time, is like, Holly and I just never really, I got to spend time. We have meals together. We try to make the evening. I mean, that was sort of a great sort of thing to be able to do that. I've experimented with cooking, made beef Wellingtons. I made bread. I made 3-day pizza dough.
I wish you would experiment with cooking.
Supporting local business.
It's important. We do that too. Like we have our like once or twice a week. We like Friday night. I actually went to Casbah, which is one of our favorite restaurants, and we did takeout. They have this amazing dinner for two thing where you can pick a salad or appetizer, a pasta, and a main dish.
I'm embarrassed to ask you this question, but I'm going to ask it. What kind of food is Casbah? Because I've never been.
Mediterranean. So like food. So like I mean, I would say like. I'm weird. They don't have it on the menu, which proves I'm one of the few people who probably order it for this reduced menu. Is they have an amazing octopus that I really like that's roasted. But like the dishes Holly ordered, and we ordered beef short rib ravioli and this sort of sage cream sauce pasta with chicken and tuna tartare and an arugula salad. And it came with a dark chocolate and raspberry bread pudding with creme anglaise.
Why'd they have to ruin it with raspberry?
It's a little fruit.
So, okay, I know you're a travel junkie like I am.
It was. Remember we could
And I
travel?
really, really tried to make my husband have the wanderlust that I have, because it's definitely something that I it fills me, like it's just something I think I daydream about traveling all the time. Is Holly the same way? Is she have wanderlust?
We travel. We actually travel really well together. Um,
What is the secret to traveling well together? Because I'll tell you, this is our 20th year together.
20 years, yes, 2 decades.
20. This is our 20th anniversary. What do you think makes a good travel partner?
I think I'm trying to think what our agreements are. Like, I feel like I get to pick where we eat, and she picks where we stay. Um, no, she actually is quite into food as much as I is into food. Although since COVID, we've done more sort of what I would call rustic. We've gone to some cabins. We've done hiking, something I really wasn't into at the time. But now I'm like, I kind of really like it, and bird watching and hiking and all that kind of stuff, back to nature. But I don't know. I think we're really good about leaving home behind together in some ways. Like just saying, this is where we are now. We also, I think, are a good mix. Like I used to be one of those people that had to accomplish vacation. Like here's a list of the 35 things I must do.
Shut up. Shut up.
As opposed to acknowledging that, look, there's a part of me that, I like nice hotels. I like nothing better in this world than a really cool hotel bar. Right. So, right. So the idea of saying this day is going to be room service, and if we get up late, fine. And that was a new lesson for me. Like I was not into that. It was like get up and hit every location.
I agree. Okay, he's talking about like staying in like a nice posh hotel. I'm not gonna like spend the day in like a so hotel. I want to get out.
Yeah, but I would say like, so we did a trip right before this all happened in last spring before last, I guess. No, last spring, to New Orleans. And
we've never been.
Well, I've been
on a great Airbnb. We loved it. And we both also, the other, this is, I'll get this second, but we don't mind going somewhere and sitting, like going to a bar or club and sitting for a long time and people watching, trying a cocktail. I love nothing better than eating dinner at the bar at a fancier restaurant, because then I can talk to the bartender. I can meet someone next to me who usually turns out I know someone 6 degrees from, or something weird.
Come on. That is me to it. That is me to a T.
Yeah, you guys should be a couple.
I love eating at the bar, and I love talking to people in every place we go. And Paul's always, but you've gone, you.
Yeah, I'm just shy.
You're a little shy.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that Holly and I've had to learn to do, and she does now, is I'm not allowed, but I'm not really good about getting away from work and stopping it. I have responsibilities. People want to be with me. So we've come up with an agreement that I can have an hour or two in the morning to respond to emails, because what I found was I would be forcing myself to not do it, thus not being able to do either, because I would be so upset that I wasn't doing the work I needed to do, or I wasn't relaxing in a way that was benefiting the vacation. So what we kind of came up with is an hour. It's usually an hour. Sometimes I can stretch it if I'm, sneaky. But I did this on the last trip. I work for an hour. I return all the emails. I make sure people know that in my office that if you need me, you need to get the email in by 9. I'll wait till 10ish. But even we had things we both had to do in New Orleans, and we actually we were so stared at. We went to Bluebeard's Pub, which is one of the oldest existing bars in New Orleans. It was we got there, early, found a table, pulled out our laptops, and we're like working and drinking a Abita beer or whatever, and the world is just building up around us, drinking, and we're like the only people. Like I'm reading a novel, like, but we're okay with that. Like that's who we are, But I will say for me, finding I'm going to do an hour, at least allows me to know I did it.
Well, here's the thing. Paul is a lot like that, because to keep his chops up, to keep his calluses up. So when we first started traveling, I said, why don't you invent something really small for string bass, for people that play, that need to keep their calluses up, something really small and portable that's like a little thing. And he's like, it's already been invented. Yeah. And I was like, well, why don't you buy it? Then instead, on our honeymoon, he would find a brick wall.
This is in Venice.
Venice,
Italy.
He would find
brick walls,
and he would just go like this with his fingers.
Buy him an emery board.
Scrape my hand.
And scrape his hand on it. And I said to him, I go, I promise you that before our honeymoon is over, you will play the bass. And sure enough, he did.
Chris will talk to somebody.
Almost.
No, I don't know what happened. We were flying home, and we had a connection through Philadelphia, and a lot of airports pre-pandemic started doing this, where they had music in the airport. There'd be a live group, sometimes classical, sometimes jazz. We went through Philadelphia, and there's one of my friends playing keyboard with this quartet in the Philadelphia airport, and great to see you. Hey, I'm coming back from my honeymoon.
And then I said,
do you want to sit in?
And I was like, he needs to sit in because I said he's going to play bass.
So they let me sit in, and she won the bet.
Won the bet. But I think one thing that we learned in our time together, and it was only probably in the last, 5 or 6 years, Paul is amazing with maps. He's like the map guy. I'm the intuitive, like I'll be like, we have like what's that, right, left brain?
Yeah,
left brain.
I'm very practical. I read the manuals. I do all of that.
And then I'm like, no, I definitely think we should go this way because I feel,
So do you set up an itinerary for the day?
I think it's important to have. Oh, don't laugh. I think it's important to have, because if you're going to go places, you want to see certain things, obviously. So I think it's important to have a loose itinerary for every day, so that if what you wanted to do didn't happen on that day, it can get bumped to another day. And I also am a big advocate for researching before you go away. To know, like, what's the best time to go? How do you get there? He doesn't like doing any of that. He's like, we're on vacation, let's just go. I'm like, I don't want to go to Venice and then stand in line for 3 hours. I want to know when to go to the Doge's Palace or when to...
The Louvre.
Yeah, the Louvre. So I'm always nagging him, let's do the research before we go, and then we can enjoy it.
Done that. I mean, we've done some of our own research, and then we sort of put a list. Like in New Orleans, I remember there was sort of a list of what are things you really want to see. Holly had never been. I had, but I hadn't been since before Katrina. I knew I wanted to see live music on Frenchmen Street, and we saw, since he's now passed, Marcellus Sr. Play. It was tremendous, and then we walked up and down the street and found a few other places. I wanted music. There were certain restaurants I wanted to hit. She wanted to see the aquarium. We both wanted to go to the World War II. So we kind of created that, but I think leaving some room. I think the challenge for me, and this is why I actually used to not do research at all, was I watched too many travel shows, and they all just looked like they were having these amazing, just stumbled. And then I finally realized how many advanced people were setting up those immediate sort of last, right? So I would go, and so here's what would happen is we would walk forever trying to find the perfect restaurant.
Yep. See?
Right. But I also in London, Holly and I I think we were walking through Soho one day, and we stumbled on this sort of little storefront, and then we had enough room that I said, that looks like the kind of restaurant I want to be at. So we went home, we researched it, then we went back. Because the problem is I also don't want to be stuck in this tourist thing.
Right. You gotta do a little, you gotta come to, with your life travel partner, you gotta come to an understanding that there has to be flexibility, but you also have to come to agreement. What do we have in common interest?
Well, what is it if I leave here, I'm going to be really upset I did not do. And there's funny, it's about to surprise you. I know when I went to Paris the first time, I was like, the last thing I want to do is go up. I don't want to go the top up. This seems so touristy. I will tell you that going up there was the thing that made me realize I was in Paris, right? So being allowed to be surprised.
Yeah. We didn't. I'll tell the story.
Which one?
Because it was expensive to go up. Mm-hmm. And we were on a bit of a budget. And so when we went back to Paris, we just went back to the Eiffel Tower and what you planned.
Oh, I put something on my phone. I put a song that was played at our wedding. And
romantic you.
I played it and we danced. We just danced underneath. So it was
So
right
pretty.
smack in the middle of underneath. And then people started filming us.
I know people are like, oh my god.
Part of vacation films across Europe now.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have to. I think I'm always fascinated how people travel with their partner because I think it's very telling, like how you come to that agreement of you're in charge of this, I'm in charge of this, or.
But I think, I think it depends on where and what, like, so the last little trip we took over my birthday, the goal was to relax because I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
So we got a cabin and we were going to go hiking and Holly wanted to try to fish. And I said, then we're going to eat well. So I went to the strip district and bought so much freaking cheese at Penn Mac and, and bottles of wine and came back and and then Holly wanted me, she's been trying to get me to, we've done 2 jigsaw puzzles in this break. It's not my thing.
That's just hysterical. I think jigsaw puzzles are like one of the things people have to do in hell.
Holly loves them.
Like when you're in hell, they just go like this and they're like, enjoy, and that's my personal hell.
I mean, I do them, I enjoy them. I don't know if I watch the speed at which she does them well, and then I start feeling bad that I'm not moving fast enough or my attention. But I also have to say that trying to focus on things is something I've been working on in this, like little mini projects that did not last. Like I initially started working on my handwriting and I was doing practice with it because I'm a lefty and I think I was taught wrong and I'm realizing that. And so I thought, and everybody's joke about my writing, like I have terrible handwriting. And anyone who's worked with me knows that I type memos. If you haven't worked with me as a director, but half the time you won't get your notes because I can't actually read them. Because I'm into that, like I leave the first word and then do the first letter of the word and do a line. Because I'm like, I'll remember that.
Did you get like beat up? Is it like from a teacher being lefty?
No, I think I mean, it's funny because I went in and did a lot of research at the beginning about, like, I even have a left-handed designed pen that's bends a little, like I found this and I'm still not great with it.
Wow.
And it's about turning the paper this way while you're writing. So you're writing down, like all this stuff that nobody told me. So I was always, I remember erasable ink came out when I was in high school and my hand was always blue. Because you're really writing over it.
Yeah.
You're writing over it.
Yeah.
And even reading books, even like on the letters, like you shouldn't be writing a letter this way because you're covering it. So when you write an F, it should be a line out, because now you can see it. Or pull it back so you can see it happening. Anyway, I was good at that, and then I got bored. So now I type again. But again, I was laughing. Like, what is it from this? Like, all these people that started making sourdough. Are they going to be doing sourdough? Are they still doing sourdough?
No, we didn't. We tried. I made the bread, and you went bonkers for the bread.
I love homemade bread. You should make homemade bread.
All right, this is a question for both of you. He doesn't know. He said, "Are you planning this?" I'm like, "Do I ever plan it?" I never. Okay, I want you to name like 5 or more or less. I don't care. You have to have during quarantine, and you cannot say your job or music or playing. It has to be something not related to your field of passion. So things that you have to have during quarantine or this insane time that are not like I can't say like a Zoom play reading, like I can, or like I get to blah blah blah. It can't be that, or you can't say practicing my bass.
But so, I can't say my YouTube channel?
Sure.
Okay.
We're going to go around the circle.
Rachel Carson blend coffee from Allegheny, from La Prima, sorry. La Prima. I love that coffee. I had to go out and get it. I guess it's my specialty.
Is that the one in the Strip District?
La Prima, where the old Italian men hang out up front, or used to?
God bless those old. Yes.
Play cards, smoke cigars.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with that coffee.
It's Rachel Carson blend coffee that I love and grind. And that's been like, I drink more coffee. How last did I consume it like I used to? I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to do my 8 glasses of water better. But
coffee is. I will say I have gone back on the coffee train. I'm gonna say one of the things. I mean, streaming services. Mm-hmm. I don't think I would have been nearly as like myself without streaming services. Your turn.
Oh, me again, round robin. Malcolm Gladwell. I've read a lot of Malcolm Gladwell.
You couldn't have survived quarantine without Malcolm Gladwell?
I love Malcolm Gladwell now.
Okay.
Easy read.
Okay.
For splurges, it would have been like Grubhub and those delivery services.
Yeah.
Because, when we finally were like, we got into a place where we were like, we need to support these local restaurants. I mean, we like cooking. We're good cooks. We can do it without. But we're like, wait a minute. I need Nikki's Thai to survive on the other side of this.
That's her jam.
that and those.
And Condado and
tacos from Bakersfield.
Oh, we haven't ordered from Bakersfield. We should look at that.
And they also do to-go margaritas. I'm just saying. I would say I mean, I couldn't have survived the quarantine without you. I know that's like cheesy, but if I had been one of those people that was alone in my apartment.
I don't know. We've had colleagues that I've Zoomed with. I mean, yeah, I don't know how they were doing it. That weren't seeing anybody. I mean, I don't leave the house that much now.
Right.
I'm like, that's something I'm going to try to work on. I mean, people are living their lives. I'm going to try to figure out how I can get to the office. I go to the office now and then, but we're not out.
But I mean, if you don't need to, you shouldn't.
I know. No, I don't mean like, but even like walking the neighborhood or taking a hike, but I'll go days without leaving the house.
Yeah, I'd say I needed you.
Oh, that's sweet.
Well, that's true.
You know what you have to say now, Paul?
Probably. Is this the last thing?
Okay.
No, we got like 3 more, I think.
I have to say, for most of the quarantine, I have not slept well at all. It's been really hard to get a good night's sleep.
Oh no!
Even if you don't know when you're going to bed and you don't have to get up. And I have to say, the best thing that's happened to me, she knows, my mom for Christmas gave us a weighted blanket.
It's like,
and
I have to tell you,
it's like this. It's like somebody sleeping on top of you.
It has changed everything. The weighted blanket. You get in and you're like a.
Have you ever done it?
I know what they are. Yeah, I'm too hot. I sleep too hot. I can't. I would die. I would be a sauna for me.
Well, I can't.
Getting 20 minutes of sleep is like, as soon as the blanket comes on you, it's like.
Oh, that's good to know.
It's amazing.
I can't. It's too. There's like moments. It's nice for me. Most of the time, I'm like, oh. Okay, it's your turn.
Zoom. I have to say, again, I mean, we laugh. It's like people were doing Zoom already, but now I wasn't. And I'm like, to be able to connect to families, I've met a lot of new people through groups that I've been a part of across the country, the ability to bring the students, those teachers, as I said. But, I think back to like my grandparents in World War II and Korea who went months without hearing from each other. And now I can talk to my mom every day and I can see her face. I mean, it's fascinating, and I know they had been setting up for the soldiers in Afghanistan, Iraq, the equivalent of Zoom stations to see at home. But the idea of not being connected, and even just in general technology, like we're all separated at Christmas and we had this ongoing daily text stream between my 2 aunts and my cousins and Holly and her family. And just, we're opening the gift. We're, doing, and I can't imagine without that ability. It's not the same. And I look forward to the Christmas I can go home or a Thanksgiving or whatever it is, or travel. We had trips planned that we couldn't do. But now, I had a Zoom reunion we've kind of all stopped. I think now we're kind of zoomed out. I had Zoom reunions with my board from Adirondack Theater Festival. We had a high school Zoom. We did a reunion of people from college. It was just neat to see people in a different way and to be connected. And the time allowed that to happen in a way that hadn't really happened. I'm also sick of Zoom at the same time, but
My childhood best friend, she spent her a whole year in China, and they did a Zoom to try to reconnect all the people and one of the people that she learned with had passed, and so through the Zoom meeting, this is gonna make me cry, they all raised money for that guy's children education. So they all met from all over the world, and none of them could do anything but speak like broken Chinese because it had been like a million years.
Chinese.
No, Susie says ni hao, like that's all she says. And they they all donated money to that. I mean, Zoom is I agree with you. I couldn't have survived without that.
Well, it's proven that geography doesn't matter. Like,
yeah.
and, like we're doing some little song projects, and I'm dealing with Sarah, who's in Berlin.
Yes.
Right, and having a meeting. It's but again, I also met people. Through work, we would have biweekly. The NAMT had the National Arts and Musical Theater, of which I'm on the board, had their first town hall. I think within the first week, like thought we should bring people together, and they broke their Zoom. They had no idea how many people would show up, but everyone was so needing. We had a Zoom conference, not the same as when we used to go to New York in the fall, and I'd see my colleagues from around the country, but at least we found a way. I mean, I think the ingenuity, and I know people are tired. I'm exhausted of this as well. But to see where the cases are now versus then, it's just, I mean, 4,000 people. I mean, not to get political again, but 4,000 people is 3 people a minute in a day dying. And
It's mind blowing. It is. It's absolutely mind blowing. And I mean, do you have hope? Do you think that this summer will happen? Do you think, knowing
I
where?
hope so. I mean, something will happen. I don't know what it'll be, but I'm hoping it. Like I said, fingers are crossed. Plans are ready to do what we need to do a regular summer season if we need to adjust. Look, first priority is audience and artist safety as we go forward. But I think people want to gather. I keep trying to remind people that the Roaring Twenties were right after the 1918 flu epidemic. I think there will be a pent up desire. What I hope people remember is the arts got people through this. We've been talking about all the television shows and the music and the books, and it'll be the arts that help the recovery. I mean, people want to. We are a people that exist in relationship to each other. We want to be together. I have this vision of the first night of whatever we do, and that orchestra starting up, and I mean,
the emotion.
It's gonna be
and hopefully people come to their feet, and because we're there. When we did with the ballet, bought this outdoor stage, the Sam 450, and they did a little open air series, and the only thing we could do at that point was send students. And I forgot how much I missed it. Like, they got up and sang, standards as well as Broadway, and these are some of our top students. And I'm like crying because I just forgot what that real in the space, the magic of what we do is what happens in the air between the performer and the audience.
Yeah.
Just a challenge, because right now what's in the air can kill each of us. So how do you have that? And that's sort of I think we'll find ways. I'm thrilled with the video, but it's a substitute. I'm sure it'll be an interesting question for you as it is for me. Like, I'm sure close-ups will continue. I think it's a great tool. I think we'll continue the talk show.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Zoom readings, I did one and I hated every moment of it. Like, I didn't do it for the public. I did it for a workshop of a project we were trying to work on. It's just not the same. I love film. I love TV. They're different art forms, but they're not this. And I will be there. I mean, Paul, I know you got to perform on the sidewalks of Kalama for a while, and I'm sure that was completely different than, and you did I saw your stuff at City of Asylum.
Was it that different?
Yeah, well, I mean, just to do a streaming thing is totally different than if you're playing for 10 people. Like a streaming thing and nobody's there, you play the song and then nothing happens.
But even like, a lot of my jazz albums are live, right? They were recorded live with an audience in the room.
Yeah.
Right? Like I have this Nancy Wilson one I listen to all the time, and it's great because that energy was there. It wasn't you in a studio.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a record. I mean, yes, I love my, studio recordings of those people as well, but it's not the same, because then my mind goes to the smoky room at, Blue Note or wherever it was performed, and and that's the same. I mean, those sort of things. And I think I probably found myself listening to more jazz in this break because of that give and take live, even between the musicians, as opposed to a pop, drum machine. Nothing is pop. I love a lot of pop, but that sort of give and take of what a jazz improvisation is much more interesting to me, and gives me something a little more visceral as I'm driving around town, to plug WZUM.
Yeah.
And hearing your name on all the calendars.
Well, hopefully, I can't think of any place I'd rather be. I mean, it's kind of, you just hold your breath. I mean, you hold your breath for all the people that are sick and all the first responders, and you hold your breath that we'll all be working and creating, because I agree with you. I think getting back up on the stage or playing music, producing and creating is going to feel completely different.
Oh yeah, no, I think it will. I mean, I'm interested to see what happens. Knowing what came after the pandemic. I mean, so many of those things I mean, I never made that connection. As I mean, we study history in so many choppy chunks that we don't often do the cause and effects. And the idea of the pandemic and post it becomes the Roaring Twenties. Let's hope there's no prohibition again. But even we had it briefly at the beginning of this pandemic.
Yeah.
When the governor wouldn't let the alcohol sales.
I know. Then it was that mad rush. Yeah. Wow.
I joined a wine club. I was like,
You know what the most popular music was for 40 years after that point?
Jazz.
Jazz, so.
And again, like I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see where we go forward. We have to be safe. We have to be careful. But it's funny now looking back, they're showing pictures of people in masks in 18 and 19, and you're like, wait a minute, how come I never?
Yeah.
The flu epidemic was sort of like a blip, right? And now we've lived it. To me, it's like, does that mean lessons weren't learned? I'm reading the books I read tend to be sort of like, World War II or spy novels with my quick ones. And then I have like longer, serious, like I'm reading The Nickel Boys right now, which won the Pulitzer Prize, but I need a break from those sometimes. And the guy was talking about, that the flu epidemic was nature's cruel joke at the end of World War I. Yeah. But then we go through, and there's some other great shows that capture it. There's one in streaming show, Berlin Babylon or Babylon Berlin. If you don't mind reading a show, it is the late 20s into 30s Berlin. In that era.
What platform is it on?
I think it's Netflix. Really well done, beautiful show, but you have to read. Suddenly you're reading, and I'll forget sometimes. Like, I'm gonna go to the kitchen. I'm like, you don't speak German. I've tried it, and I've used it back to the phone. I've used some of the foreign language things as a way to turn off the phone and focus on the thing, because I'm one of those horrible people that will play a game of dots while watching a movie, or then go on the Internet Movie Database to figure out why I know this actor. So the foreign language films mean I have to put the phone to the side and watch. And Babylon Berlin's good. The other one that I love, again, it's food, is Midnight Diner, which is on Netflix, and it's Tokyo.
I'm writing it down right now.
It was actually based on a manga cartoon novel, but it's a guy who owns like one of the late night, I totally blank the name on what they're called, but they're these little diner restaurants that are specialties of things, and they're usually open from midnight to 7 a.m. in a specific district of Tokyo. And so, he opens, he's making this pork soup, and you hear him talk about like, it's on the menu, but I'll make anything. And then customers come in. So it's sort of like Balm and Gilead, the play, right? So like people come in and order something, and then you kind of get like the guy that orders the rice and only puts the butter in, and then you like get a story of where that came from. And there's sort of, the underbelly of Tokyo. There's the man who runs the gay club, and there's the gangster, and sometimes they come in and out, and there's the three friends who definitely want to get married, but will only get married for true love. And of course,
is this like a documentary or a?
No, it's a scripted show.
Okay. I was like, this sounds fascinating.
Well, what's funny also is at the end of it, every episode, then one of the guys cooking, and one of the characters talks to the camera and explains the dish that has been the center of.
Oh, okay.
I love it.
I mean, they're really character driven. They're very slow moving in some ways, but again, you have to read. It's Japanese. I don't know it, and I'll be like, I get very hungry at the end. But
I'm hungry just now.
It's also very short. It's not a long thing, and they're connected, but not really. So I can like watch one and then wait 3 weeks to watch. This has apparently been our entire show on things that stream. That's apparently I only like things that stream and involve food.
That's all right, and so do we. So, I mean, that might be a good way to wrap it up, because honestly, I love your hopefulness. I love your positivity. I love
Oh.
that you think that, you know, we are moving in the right direction. I feel that too. Hopefully more people
We'll get there. We
um,
have more in common where we want to move forward. The vaccines are there. It's just, I don't know.
And CLO has been a guiding light during
Oh,
this time.
They
It's
well,
really
thank
given
you.
a lot of hope to actors and non-actors and people in the community, and it's been wonderful.
Thank you. I mean, we're trying, and hopefully there's more we can do. We'll continue to work, but it's been a truly team effort of staff and really seeing this sort of. It's not a job, commitment to a mission, commitment to our just cause, and hopefully there's, you know, I said I can't wait to see what our next 75 years look like, or at least as many of them as I'll be able to see. Um, but it's quite amazing to think about an institution that's been that, you know, and Pittsburgh has a bunch. Symphony turns 125 next year.
that's
You know,
amazing.
it's amazing. So, well, thank you for just chatting.
Well, this is how we end every episode, so you got to
Oh.
stay for this. I'm Chris. Well,
No,
first you can.
that's the beginning.
Oh. Well, first you should say goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
to
you to Mark
Mark, who's
Fleischer.
amazing.
And
I love you. Mwah.